Our next reader is also our final student reader. Tracy Kauffman Wood has been writing memoir, personal essay, and creative nonfiction for 20 years. She publishes on her blog, whocanstopdream.blogspot.com, and is published on womensmemoirs.com. She has attended writing workshops at the University of Iowa Summer Writers Program for many years and taught her first writing workshop last summer. She reads her work monthly at the First Person Open Mic in Ardmore, which she founded 3 years ago. She is completing a book-length memoir about dementia and caregiving. She is currently the creative nonfiction editor of Rosemont's new literary magazine, The Rathala Review, which you should all submit to if you have not, just saying. She works full-time as a professional photographer to tell stories with images as well. She's currently pursuing an MFA in creative writing at Rosemont College. Please welcome Tracy.
Gotta read fast. Aunt Jean. Aunt Jean read philosophy on the 50 trolley as it bounded down 4th Street and fits and starts toward Passyunk Avenue. Rocking back and forth in her seat as if she were praying, she read and swayed until the brakes squealed and wheels ground to a screeching halt for the 5th time. Then she closed her book, grabbed the pole beside her, and stood erect, climbed down the steps and walked the block to Lenny's hot dog stand, where she sold sandwiches. On Saturdays, when I was 10, I rode the trolley and walked to Lenny's along with her. She fed me before I walked to my art class at 7th and Catherine Streets in South Philadelphia. Aunt Jean stuffed hot dogs, fish cakes, mustard, chopped onions, sauerkraut, and homemade pepper hash into warm buns and handed them over the counter to customers she addressed as baby and doll. "Hey, baby, what can I get you? Something to drink, doll?" She must have said this at least 50 times a day, never wearing out her smile. "Edie Gourmet, sugar, no cream, right?" Aunt Jean complimented her customers, citing a slight resemblance to the popular celebrities of the day to make them smile. Aunt Jean wore pink frosted lipstick to match her painted fingernails. Her hair was set and heavily sprayed to a J, I thought, with a flip at the bottom. Her uniform was white, embroidered with Jean in red above the chest pocket. Her freshly polished white shoes were flat, wide, and made for comfort and support as she stood all day in a 10 by 12-foot trailer at an open window above a slight counter. Inside were steam ovens with stainless steel doors and black knobs on top, which she flung open with a large pronged fork to pluck moist doggies and plump patties of potatoes and fish. Ba-ba-boom. The doors bounced and settled backwards as steam enveloped her, and the acrid smell of hot fermented cabbage and freshly chopped onions permeated the air inside and out. She must have smelled that in her dreams. Sauerkraut was kept in a bowl in the ovens. Its overflow doused the steaming hot dogs with a signature tang. But pepper hash was what scored Lenny's hot dogs its local fame. Bubba Ida's recipe from the old country. A few carrots, a whole green pepper, a head of cabbage, white sugar, and distilled white vinegar, all chopped together. "How much sugar and vinegar?" new employees would ask. "Shit it on, just throw it in," Aunt Jean said with a slight wave of the right hand, repeating her mother's Yiddish words and recipe. She arrived early each morning to light the urns and chop vegetables. This was her job, performed as if it were a chosen profession. On Tuesdays, before I started kindergarten, Aunt Jean emerged from her cubicle of sweet and sour steam to spend her day off with me. We had a standing date for breakfast at Linton's on Castor Avenue in Northeast Philadelphia, where we lived. On Tuesdays, Aunt Jean wore black. Her blouse was off the shoulder and her skirt was flared out by the stiff layered crinoline beneath. It sounded crinkly as if I were forming snowballs when I pressed against her skirt. Her black heels clopped on the street in short, quick steps. We took my stroller in case I got tired, but I usually walked beside her, holding on to the handle. We would need the stroller later to hold our purchases. We didn't bother with sidewalks as we made our way toward Castor Avenue. The up and down the sidewalks was hard to negotiate with heels and a stroller. We walked in the street alongside the curb. Aunt Jean trusted that drivers would see us. Indeed, they often slowed down just to look at her. Aunt Jean liked her coffee black, her toast dry, and her cigarettes unfiltered. "Short stack, side of toast, hold the butter," B, our steady waitress, announced over the microphone to the cooks as we entered Litton's. heaping dishes of sunny-side-up eggs, bacon, fried potatoes, and thick pancakes with a scoop of butter on top that looked like melting ice cream, rolled out of the kitchen on a long conveyor belt. We always sat where I could follow the route of my perfectly plate-sized stack. I couldn't smell much of anything except for cigarette smoke. Aunt Jean took long, languorous drags on her cigarette, held the smoke in her chest, then exhaled with a deep sigh. She relaxed back into her chair. The cigarette sat perched on the elegant pedestal of her consciously positioned fingers and tapered, painted nails. I knew that she had taught piano with those fingers, and I'd seen her play duets with her daughter. What I didn't know at that time was that she had been offered a career as a classical pianist in New York when she was a young woman, but her mother was afraid to let her go. Instead, she was paid to improvise on the keyboard in silent movie houses in Philadelphia during the 1920s. "Can you teach me to play piano?" I'd ask. "I don't have the patience to teach or play anymore," she said from behind her smoky curtain at Litton's. "But how about you?" She leaned forward, holding her cigarette like a pointer toward my face. "What do you want to be when you grow up?" "An artist," I'd say, while doodling on paper placemat. "What do you like to draw?" "Stars," I'd say, showing off the blue intersecting lines on my paper canvas. "Well, they sparkle just like you. You'll be anything you want because you've got personality," she'd insist. Then we'd walk out of Litton's and down the avenue singing, "'Cause you got personality, walk with personality, talk with personality, smile, personality, charm." We'd end up at Woolworth's 5-and-dime store, where she bought my crayons. For herself, she chose a new lipstick, perhaps a bottle of nail polish, or a stiff sandy emery board. Aunt Jean and I remained close for 35 years, until she died of emphysema. In her later years, I became her confidant. She told me about her husband, Leon. He said he was sickly and didn't want to have children, so I had 3 back-alley abortions and almost bled to death the 3rd time. When I became pregnant again, the doctor said, "You better have this baby." "When you're young, you do dumb things," Aunt Jean said. "I could have had 4 children, like your mother." The fourth pregnancy resulted in a daughter, whom she adored, fretted over, and raised alone. Her daughter was born with a hip deformity and had to wear a bar separating her legs for the first 5 years of her life. She needed to be carried, and her sickly husband wouldn't carry her. "Divorce him. What good is he?" Jean's sister Lena advised. "I liked him well enough, but Lena kept nagging," Jean said, and perhaps she was right. It wasn't much help. So she divorced him. Aunt Jean and her daughter moved in with her parents, never asking for child support from Leon. Meanwhile, Sister Lena remained unhappily married for 55 years. "When I turned 50, I got a nose job and started going to dances," Aunt Jean said. "I met a man, and we dated for a while. Then he told me he was married with children, and yet he went to singles dances. We continued until I said, 'Enough, enough already.' I never dated again. All my life, I lacked confidence. I joined the library, thinking books would help. Aunt Jean sold sandwiches most of her life for her brother Lenny. She read self-help and philosophy books while shuttling to and from work. She took care of her nieces and nephews on her days off. She gave her money to her daughter and grandchildren. When she retired, she kept busy and remained social by making weekly dinners for her family. Osteoporosis robbed her of her bones of minerals and stature. Her hands shook wildly while salting the soup she prepared for her family. At 80, she cut a familiar figure in the neighborhood, bent over her shopping cart for support, pushing slowly and carefully toward Castor Avenue. She'd return home with it full of groceries for her weekly soiree. Aunt Jean pushed ahead toward each new day, filling her life with simple pleasures, deflecting her larger dreams. When I consider the forces that helped shape her life, I can understand why. Aunt Jean grew up in an immigrant family. Her parents arrived in Philadelphia from Russia in 1909. Jean was 4. They lived in tenement slums until they got a foothold. She and her 9 sisters and brothers depending on each other for emotional support, while their parents struggled to feed and clothe them. Vermacht deine Pinsk. Shut your mouth, open your eyes, watch, listen, learn. Don't make trouble. This is what Jean heard. This impacted Jean's life's decisions. She didn't want to disrupt anything or make trouble. She just wanted to please. Her attitude towards her dreams was inherited from her struggling parents. Who were we to dream such dreams? Just be good-natured and fit in. That's all she could hope for. She knew it wasn't enough. Still, she couldn't oppose the people she loved. Simpler became easier for her. I fight this tendency in myself to fall back on what is easier, diluting my spirit. But I feel we all have guardian angels, and Aunt Jean guards my dreams. At times in my adult life, when I have felt deeply overwhelmed by a task and ready to succumb to the prevailing winds, she has visited me. She arrives early in the morning, lights my urn, and sings the song in my heart. I awaken and walk into the day with confidence and personality.